Welcome back to the water cooler, everybody. Glad to have Senator John Thune in our first block. We've got election integrity news to get to. If I were CNN, I'd say we have voting restriction right information to give you. That's with Don Lemon and the boys over there at CNN. And I say the boys because we're all the female anchors in primetime. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. That's a whole nother segment. All right, let's go to Breitbart's headline here. Arizona Governor Ducey signs bill into law that prohibits private funding of election administration. We're going to unpack all of this. It has to do with Mark Zuckerberg and all the money he was funneling in through all of these indirect groups. Joining me now, Dr. Kelli Ward, Arizona GOP Chairwoman, and Jake Hoffman, the man that wrote the bill, Arizona State Representative. Both of you, thanks so much for being here.
David, it's always great to be with you and with your audience.
Well, Kelli, Jake, let me start actually with Jake and take us through this bill, explain to our viewers exactly what's in it and why the governor signed it.
I'm happy to do it. So look, this bill is very simple. It's not like the 500 or 2,000 word or a page bills in Washington, D.C. It's one sentence. And it says that Arizona elections aren't for sale. No private monies may be accepted or expended for the administration or management of Arizona's elections. And this is important because, we saw in 2020 nearly $500 million, that's billion with a B, was spent by big tech billionaires to influence the management and administration of elections all across the country, county recorders and secretary of states, including millions and millions right here in Arizona. And that is a bridge too far. The people of Arizona do not want that type of outside influence in our elections.
So, Kelli, this is something that you have been talking about for a very long time, that the laws must change. You've been on the front lines. Where is this going, this law? And there's probably going to be others to come. And will the governor get behind some of these others that are in the hopper, if you will?
Exactly right. I love to see our Republican representatives, our Republican senators leading the way. Arizona's the tip of the spear here on election integrity. We're getting ready for a big full forensic audit of the Maricopa County election from 2020. It's going to show us a lot of the problems, the mistakes, and potentially fraud that happened here right in our state. And thank you to Representative Jake Hoffman for putting this bill forward and to the governor for signing it into law. We have a bunch of other election integrity pieces of legislation coming up that are still being debated at the House and at the Senate. And I want to urge Governor Ducey to sign those pieces of legislation into law as well, because we have got to do everything possible to restore election integrity and voter confidence so that going into 2022 and going into 2024, people get out and vote and they make sure that our country is going in the right direction.
Yeah, and Jake, let me ask you a little bit about the Democrats who are pushing back here, who say, hey, we need better funding in Arizona, and they'll talk about other states too, but in Arizona for sure, that the funding isn't there, so we got to find the funding somewhere. What's the reaction to that?
Well, so look, the reality is that the money that the Center for Tech and Civic Life and the Center for Election and Innovation and Research, the monies that those two nonprofits funded by Mark Zuckerberg and other billionaires on the left gave was all supplemental to the monies that were appropriated much earlier in the year by the county boards of supervisors, by the state government, for the general fund, for the Secretary of State. All of the money that these recorders and secretaries of states received was supplemental to, not supplanting of, the money that they already had to run the election. And that's a very important thing to note.
Yeah, well, and Kelli, one of the pushbacks when I have some liberals on this show, they'll say, hey, if Trump had won the election, none of this would be happening. What's your reaction to things like that? That there's this big push because Trump didn't win the election?
No,
according to them.
It's funny business for many years, not just in 2020. But 2020 really brought it to the forefront with Republican observers not being able to do the job that they were tasked with doing, with these outside entities funneling money basically through organizations to better the public welfare. Well, I understand as a physician that applies to hospitals, as a wife and a mom to parks, but funneling money from private institutions with political agendas and from big tech billionaires with political agendas into these very nice sounding not-for-profits in order to influence outcomes in our elections is unconscionable. Imagine if it was happening to our judiciary. The judiciary needs more money. Let's let big tech billionaires, let's let Mark Zuckerberg and Jack figure out how our judiciary works. I say no. We have to put our foot down. And thank goodness for Representative Hoffman and others like him who are putting election integrity bills into place, and Republican governors who are signing them into law to restore election integrity and voter confidence.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, go ahead, Jake. Go ahead.
If I can piggyback on that, I would be running this bill if it was the Koch brothers who had come in and done this exact same practice. In fact, I have a bill right now that prohibits modifying or agreeing to modify statutorily prescribed election dates or deadlines. Now, this stems from our Secretary of State, who is a Democrat, agreeing to extend the voter registration period, outside of her constitutional, outside of her legal purview to do that. And the thing to note on that is that Republicans actually gained the voter registration advantage in the 5 days that it was expanded beyond the statutory deadline. I'm running that bill to stop that practice, even though Republicans were benefited by it, because it's simply bad elections policy. And that's what we care about most here in Arizona. And I'm confident because I've spoken with legislators in Georgia, I've spoken with legislators in Michigan who are all pursuing, Texas, who are pursuing these same things. And we're not doing these because it benefits Republicans. We're doing these because it benefits Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, and it's sound elections policy.
Well, that's a great point. And Jake, real quick, what else is in the hopper there that we should be aware of? In other words, what might be the next headline we see come out of Arizona in terms of a potential bill that the governor would be interested in signing?
So I think one of the next bills that's going to hit the headlines is Senate Bill 1485. It's a bill introduced by Senator Ugenti Rita. 1485 is a very good bill. It deals with our early voter list. So we have a modified absentee process here in Arizona. Right. And so many people are on the early voter list. Yeah. But what it does is it says if you perpetually don't vote in elections via the early vote process, the mail-in vote process, if you perpetually don't participate, you will be sent a notice that says, do you want to stay on this list? So.
Well, we got to unpack that. I'm running out of time, but I want to hear more about that. I'd love to have you back on the show. And Kelly, thank you both very, very much, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, stay cool out there. It's April. Who knows? In Arizona, it could be 115 in the shade, but it doesn't feel too bad because of the low humidity. I lived in Colorado for 10 years. I know what it's like, to a degree. Not like Arizona, though. All right, when we come back, Rick Green, the constitutional coach, talking about papers, vaccine papers.